Alright, hey everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. Today we're going to be discussing overcoming common objections to the life insurance sale. This is a live broadcast of a video we have currently in the video vault. We're going to go a little more in depth here, and we're also going to have a Q&A section at the end in case you guys have had some additional objections that you've come across that you want some help overcoming yourselves. First things first, overcoming objections gets a lot easier if you create an environment in which objections don't pop up as much to begin with. That means conveying the importance of life insurance. It's not hard. According to a study that I have read, and I've got the documentation here on my laptop, and if I had thought to pull it up I would so I'd know who had done the study, 81% of Americans believe that they need a life insurance policy, but only 41% own an individually purchased policy. That's a big gap. A lot of folks have insurance through work, and as we're going to discuss in just a few moments, work insurance tends not to be enough. So 81% think they need it, only 41% have it. There are millions of people in the U.S., and you can see a huge percentage here that make up our target market. So we want to bridge that gap. How do we do it? What's the real issue? Why do why does that large percentage of people not move on and purchase a policy? They know why life insurance is important, otherwise they wouldn't have said they believe they need it. But the problem is they've invented excuses to avoid making a purchase. And those excuses are what we're going to be talking about today. Those are the objections that come up that we're going to work on overcoming. So, let's jump right in. The first one is probably the most common one you guys are going to hear. Life insurance is too expensive. I can't afford the monthly premiums. This is really common. If we were only going to go over one objection today, this would be it because it's the most common one by far. It's too expensive. I don't have the money. This is what you're going to hear from a lot of your BBII clients, and it's a facetious phrase. BBI clients bought beer instead of insurance. Folks that budget their money for creature comforts, HBO, beer, tickets to the game, instead of buying life insurance. Really common objection. What you got to do here is compare the cost of not having insurance. I sat down with a client the other day. Currently, this client, his household income is about $80,000 a year. Household expenses, though, are about $60,000 a year, so he doesn't have a lot of wiggle room there. Doesn't have a lot of free space in his finances to put out money for a policy. And that's what he told me. He said, Nick, I see the need. I know that I need it, but I make about $80,000 and I spend about $60,000. I got to put stuff in savings. I got to entertain myself once in a while. I don't know that I can afford it. And this guy's got a wife and 2 kids, and I said, if you can't afford $150 a month for a life insurance policy, and you're the sole breadwinner for the house, your family's damn sure not going to be able to afford to survive if you pass away and they lose that income. I walked away from that with an application. We found a way to budget after he realized how important it was. Compare the cost of not having insurance. If the client is saying it's too expensive, that means that their budget is tight enough and their finances are tight enough that it's even more important for them to get on and get a good life insurance policy. It's also important to factor in inflation and funeral costs as well as lost income. A lot of folks don't think about lost income. If you're talking about funeral costs about $10,000 a year. Lost income is a big one in inflation. That funeral, $10,000 a year, but in 11, 12 years, it's going to be about $20,000. So think about that when you're working with your clients. Then you'll get the I haven't gotten around to it clients. I need it, but I'll get to it later. I'll do it next week. Call me back in a month and we'll talk. I need to buy this, I need to buy that. We'll take care of it, don't worry. There are no guarantees in the life insurance world. There are no guarantees in life, period. Be blunt. What would your family do if you didn't come home from work tomorrow? And I mean it, tomorrow. What do you have in the bank right now? What do you have in savings right now? What would happen right now if you didn't come home tomorrow? What would happen to your family's finances? Would you be able to continue the standard of living you guys have now? It's a big concern, and a lot of folks don't think about the fact that it could happen now. It could happen immediately. Hang on just one second, guys. I'm sorry. So use real numbers. Show what's in the bank now, show what's going to happen to that money right now, show what's going to happen to those assets right now. Okay, well, we've looked at all that. What do you have left over? Not much? Is that what your family's going to live on? It's a big concern, and it can be a huge problem. You'll find a lot of folks are going to say, I've got these savings, I've got some baseball cards in the attic, this and that. I'm leaving that to my family. I don't need a life insurance policy. Don't worry about it. Well, that's a dangerous way to think. First thing you need to think about there is the tax implications. Bring up the tax implications of leaving those savings. Okay, so you're going to leave a savings account to your kids. Estate taxes, not this year obviously, estate tax has been repealed for the year. Probate costs, is that money going to be available immediately? Tax implications are a big deal when you're talking about passing wealth on from generation to generation. What else were those savings cushioned for? If you've got money sitting there in savings, chances are you had that money there for a reason. That money was probably saved up to pay for an unexpected medical emergency, an unexpected purchase, unexpected financial disaster. Those savings exist for a reason. So your grand plan is, okay, if I pass away, my family will be okay because I'm going to wipe out their entire safety net. No, that's a big deal. Guys, I'm so sorry. Hang on just one more moment. Okay, I apologize. So, what were we saying? Oh, what else are those savings a cushion for? And lastly, the money in your savings, dollar for dollar, is more powerful in life insurance. If they come back and say, well, those savings are to leave for my family, that's the only thing you've got savings for. The only reason you have a savings account or a CD or whatever is to leave money to your family if you pass away. What if I show you how $1 of savings can buy $5 of life insurance? Would it make more sense to put that money that you've got earmarked to leave to your family anyway in a life insurance policy for your family? So the money in your savings, dollar for dollar, is more powerful than life insurance. Plus it avoids the tax implications, plus it avoids probate, plus it leaves the savings intact if you need to build up another savings account. Everyone wins here. Sometimes you're going to get folks who are just overwhelmed by the sheer number of choices. You're going to say, I don't know what to pick. I'm worried that I'm going to pick the wrong policy. I'm worried that I'm going to get the wrong coverage. I'm worried I'm not going to get the right face amount. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. I've got clients like this who, you probably know these people. They're really high strung. They freak out at a moment's notice. They're like, oh my gosh, and they freeze. Kind of paralysis by analysis. They'll work themselves up into such a tizzy about all the different ways they could possibly mess up the purchase process, and they'll decide no, I can't do it. I got to stop. I'm afraid. Lucky them, they've got an insurance agent on their side. An insurance agent is a broker who works in the best interest not of the insurance companies but of the client. That's what you do, and that's what you've got to point out to your clients. Point out your expertise. Point out the fact that they don't just hand out insurance licenses on the corner. You've got to pass a rigorous screening exam. You've got to pass a licensing exam. You've got to get really get your ducks in a row before they allow you to become a licensed insurance agent. It's a big deal. So once you've got their expertise, your expertise pointed out to the client, then you can dazzle them with a couple of products. Okay, so I know you're a little overwhelmed with what to pick. Show them a UL, show them a term product, but don't show them 15 or 20 different options. These are the types of folks that can get really easily overwhelmed. Show them one or two things, and emphasize the fact finder. Emphasize the process you use to figure out which policy is going to be right for them. That's the most important part of this. At the end, here's what you do. Have you ever gone to the doctor and had him walk in the room and say, okay, you can do this, or this. You can take this medicine, this medicine, this medicine, or this medicine. Which one do you want? Most doctors aren't going to do that because they're experts. They use a very systematic fact-finding methodology that helps them figure out exactly what type of treatment you need, and then they come in and tell you what you need. You, as an insurance agent, are using a very systematic fact-finding methodology to figure out exactly what type of policy your client needs, and then you give them that policy. It's great. It's win-win. When you present them with an option from a position of authority, it's going to help them get through this I don't know what to pick stage, and it's going to end up building confidence in you. A lot of folks are going to tell you, I've already got coverage through work. Can't do it. Nope. Alright, well, coverage through work is almost always insufficient. Generally, if you're talking to somebody who says, I've got coverage through work, they're on some little group plan. They've got like $25,000, $50,000, maybe $75,000 worth of coverage. Almost always insufficient. Consider the issue of portability as well. Okay, so you're at work. You have a stroke. Stroke doesn't kill you. You're fine. You live through it. But you can't do your job anymore. You have to leave that place of work. What happens then? You just left work. You just left your place of employment. You don't have this life insurance policy anymore. And you just had a stroke. You're going to be really difficult to insure. What do? All of a sudden, you're in a position where not only are you having a difficult time finding work, but you don't have the coverage that, as we discussed earlier, you know you need. The issue of portability is huge, and it can really win a client over. Add that on top of the fact that whatever coverage they have through work is almost definitely insufficient for their true needs, and you've got a sure sale almost every time on this one. Not to mention the fact that the price of coverage usually increases in 10-year bands up to age 60 or 65, and then begins to increase in 5-year bands. Not a good deal for the client. Sell them a permanent policy at a younger age now, however, and they're going to lock in that low rate for the rest of their life. This is a very powerful phrase to remember no matter what the objection, because when you get right down to it, any objection you come across, it's going to have something to do with price, obligation, or need. Remember this phrase, life insurance isn't for the people who die, it's for the people who live. Life insurance isn't for the people who die, it's for the people who live. Life insurance is a very unselfish thing to do, it's a very selfless thing to do. Purchasing life insurance, as a person who owns the life insurance policy on themselves, I can say that I'll probably never see a benefit from my policy in my life. But the people I care about and love will see a benefit when I pass away, and that benefit can keep them afloat financially, can keep them on their feet, and can keep them stable. Life insurance is not for the person buying it, it's for the person it's for the people that person cares about. Help them see that it's really not about their needs. It's about the needs of the people that they truly care about. We've all heard this one before. I need to think about it. I gotta think about it. This is a lot to think about. I gotta think about it. Okay, well, first off, don't be pushy. The client says, I need to think about it. It's one of two things. One, they really honestly do need to think about it. They need to go back and check their budget and make sure they can afford the premiums. They need to compare it to their current policy to see if it's worth replacing. Or maybe you were just talking to the wife and they want to talk to the husband just to make sure. Couples like to communicate about that kind of stuff. The thing is, if it's not that they really do need to think about it, it's that you haven't instilled enough trust in them. I need to think about it means I don't know if I believe you and I want to check your work. I want to see if I can get this cheaper. I want to see if you're really doing the right thing for me. If you haven't instilled trust in them, don't be pushy. Because if you start trying to be the pushy salesman, you're just going to confirm their suspicions and they're going to run for the hills. Don't be pushy. Don't say, look, we need to do this right now. It's absolutely imperative and vital that we get this taken care of right this moment. But you do want to instill a sense of urgency. Absolutely, I understand that you need to think about it. It is a big, it's a big decision. This kind of thing, death is not a fun thing to think about, and it can happen at just about any time. What we want to do here is make sure that you think about it, you're comfortable with the coverage, you're comfortable with the options we've put out, and that we can get this in place as quickly as possible so we can go on and lock in low rates for you while you're young and while you're healthy. Instilling that sense of urgency in a very non-threatening and non-confrontational way will help them make a buying decision without a lot of pressure on them. When they tell you we need to think about it, there's nothing wrong with asking, well, give me an idea of which part you'd like to think about while we're here sitting together. This is what I do all day is I stare at life insurance policies. So if you've got any questions about it, I'd like to know what they are so I can go on and answer them for you while I'm available. Phrase it as, you've already got an expert sitting across the table from you. Why not ask your questions now while I'm available? You'll usually get what they need to think about out of them. You'll find out whether it's truly an issue of they really do need to think about it or they don't trust you. And you can do one of two things. One, if they need to think about it, you can help them walk through it and help guide them to a point where they're comfortable buying. Or if they just don't trust you, well, you can help them learn to trust you by showing them what an expert you are and how well you're working for them. So what if the client doesn't come out and say, it costs too much, I need to think about it, I got it through work? What if they just hesitate? What if they just kind of don't do anything? Hesitation is the silent objection. It's what you're going to see, well, I don't know. I'm not sure if I need it. And they just kind of sit there. They don't make a move towards buying. They don't make a move towards doing anything. They don't really know what they're doing. And guys, I apologize. We're going to have to take one more 1-minute break real quick. Okay, guys, I apologize for that. We're having some technical difficulties today, and it's absolutely beautiful. But once you speak with them and figure out, okay, you've gotten the policy presented, you've gotten everything presented, they know what's on the table, now you're just dealing with this hesitation, this silent objection. Everyone's just kind of sitting there, it's kind of at a standstill. Oh, what do we do now? Okay. 2 things that you want to look out for. Number 1, have you asked for the sale? A lot of agents are terrified to do this, won't ask for the sale, won't come out and say, so, we've talked about your problem, we've seen this solution, are you ready to move forward with it? A lot of agents are absolutely terrified at the prospect of coming out and asking for the sale. If you've already asked for the sale and they're still sitting there hesitating, a trick you can use, well, okay, give me an idea of how you're feeling. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I never want to hear you talk again, and 10 being I want to write a check right now. How do you feel about what we've talked about? How do you feel about this policy? I'm feeling like a 2. Okay, well, if they say they're feeling like a 2, you've done a pretty poor job so far, and you're probably out in the cold. I'm like a 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there. The line I like to use, okay, you're at a 6 right now. What would we need to do to make you feel like you were at a 10? What questions do we need to answer? What concerns do we need to address to get you to that 10? Basically what you're saying is, what do I need to say to you to sell you this policy? Because when you put it on a scale of 1 to 10, you automatically put it in the client's mind, I'm here now, but I can get to 10. You put it in their mind that they can do that. You give them a concrete methodology for showing you what they need and what they need to be. And you also, I'm sorry, let me back up. One thing you're going to run into sometimes, okay, you're at a 6 right now. What do we need to get you to a 10? Well, you need to drop the price by $50 a month. And they think they're real clever when they do that, and it's really annoying. But you're going to find that that's just a rephrasing of the "it's too expensive." Go back to that objection, rewind the broadcast a little bit, and remember how we talked about, well, if you can't afford this policy, how is your family going to survive and afford life if your income is suddenly cut off? Big concern there. One thing we talked about that kind of creates an atmosphere that stops objections before they start is starting with calculations, starting with a fact finder. Remember we were talking about the person that kind of freaks out, oh, there are too many options, I don't know what to pick, I'm not going to pick anything. Start with a strong fact finder. Show the client that you're not just picking a number out of the air. You need $400,000, that sounds cool. No. Start with strong calculations, start with a fact finder, and show them how you arrive at a solid number for them. Show them how you arrive at a face value, a term length, or a policy type. Help them see the need and help them see the process you use to arrive at it. It really takes a lot of the guesswork out, and it really shows them, it prevents that objection that you're going to hear a lot of times. Well, why don't we just cut the benefit in half and get the price down? No, you don't need to do that. At that point, you're not really purchasing life insurance. You're purchasing a good feeling, and the benefit isn't really going to be there when you need it. A lot of folks never think about the fact that that income is going to be lost when a person dies. People think about the funeral. People think about moving money and taxes. People think about a lifestyle change, but lots and lots of folks never think about the fact that, oh my gosh, if someone dies, their income is gone. It sounds so obvious to us as life insurance agents, but people never think about it. It's something you've got to make sure to point out. And like we said, it's going to remove later roadblocks and later objections to the sale. At the end of the day, though, it's all about trust. You've got to make the client trust in you. You've got to do what's right for the client, and do that by using personal examples. Tell the client how you're personally invested in making sure they get the right life insurance policy. Tell the client how you're personally invested in making sure that they can afford it. Tell the client how, I didn't go out and pick the policy that pays me the most. I picked the policy that's right for you. You've got to make them trust in you. Like I said, use personal examples. For me, it's easy to sell a policy to somebody when I'm selling them an surety policy, because I've got a surety on myself and on my fiance. I believe in that company. I can say, look, they say, is this a good policy? Is this what we really need? And I can point to it and honestly say, that's the policy I've got covering my life. I believe in it very strongly. I can say the same thing about West Coast Life. It's what a lot of my family is on. I can tell them about how, when my father passed away without life insurance, it was a huge financial burden. You can use these personal examples too. Everyone knows somebody. Everyone knows somebody that's passed away. And everyone knows a family that's had some kind of financial difficulty after someone's death. Everyone does. Rack your brain. You'll know it. And if you don't know anybody, you know someone who does. Use those stories to help you sell. Use those stories to build trust. Okay, and that's going to take care of it for overcoming common objections to the life insurance sale. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to type them out in the right-hand side of the chat pane here under the questions box. Okay, if we don't have any questions, we're going to wrap things up then. Hey, thank you guys for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and thank you for bearing with us during the couple of interruptions we had. We're having some little technical problems on our end, but we got them fixed over the course of the webinar, and thank you guys for being patient with it. We look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. We'll be doing one more webinar this week, and then we'll be on to next week. Thank you guys again, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.